The world of gospel music is built on harmony, on voices blending together to lift weary hearts and point souls toward hope. But on the evening of Thursday, January 7, 2026, that harmony was shattered. In a quiet farmhouse in Coca, Tennessee, David Phelps, one of the most powerful and recognizable tenors in Christian music, shared news no one was prepared to hear. Not a new tour, not a new album, but the loss of the woman who had stood beside him for more than 3 decades. His wife, Lori Pearl Phelps, had passed away at the age of 56. For fans, this loss felt deeply personal. People didn't just follow David Phelps' career, they followed the Phelps family. They watched the children grow up, saw the farm flourish, and admired a marriage that seemed to reflect the very hymns David sang. To understand the weight of this loss, we must look beyond the stage lights and applause, and into the life of the woman who helped build everything. Quietly, faithfully, and without seeking recognition. Lori Pearl Phelps was born on October 21, 1969, the same day as David. They would later joke that sharing a birthday was God's subtle way of telling them they were meant to walk through life together. Their story began in the late 1980s at Baylor University in Waco, Texas. David was a vocal performance major with a rare voice, but an uncertain future. Lori saw his potential long before the world did. Where David dreamed, Lori grounded those dreams in reality. They married in 1990 in a small Texas church, beginning a life that would be filled with faith, sacrifice, and service. The early years weren't glamorous. They were filled with long drives, tight finances, and endless uncertainty. But Lori became the steady force behind it all, handling logistics, managing their home, and allowing David to focus entirely on his calling. David often said, "Behind every great man is an even greater woman." For the Phelps family, this wasn't a cliché. It was truth. Everything changed in 1997, when David joined the Gaither vocal band. His career skyrocketed almost overnight. He became one of the most recognizable voices in gospel music, performing across the globe and earning Grammy nominations and Dove Awards. But while David stood on world-class stages, Lori held everything together behind the scenes. She traveled with him, often with their children in tow, Callie, Maggie Beth, Grant, and Kobe, managing schedules, supporting David emotionally, and keeping their family grounded amid constant travel. Eventually, they chose a different pace of life. They moved to a 100-acre farm in Coca, Tennessee, seeking peace and normalcy for their children. Lori transformed the property into a sanctuary, raising animals, tending the land, and creating a home rooted in simplicity and faith. Then came 2013. That year, Lori was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. The diagnosis shook their world. David paused his career. The music community rallied. Prayer circles formed across the globe. Through chemotherapy and exhaustion, Lori showed extraordinary courage. She didn't hide her pain, but she didn't let fear define her either. David later shared that watching Lori endure treatment changed the way he understood faith. Songs he had sung for years suddenly carried deeper meaning. Against the odds, Lori went into remission. Those next 13 years became a gift. Years filled with intention, gratitude, and love. Lori poured herself into family, hospitality, and creativity. She launched Barn and Bale, transforming their barn into a space for gatherings, handmade goods, and community. She never chased attention. She created connection. And no one knew then that time, so precious, so fleeting, was quietly counting down. The night Lori Phelps passed away was meant to be ordinary. The busy holiday tour season had ended. Winter had settled over the Tennessee farm. David and Lori were preparing dinner. Just another quiet evening together. There was no warning. In the heart of their home, Lori suffered a massive, catastrophic heart attack. Emergency responders rushed her to a hospital in nearby Columbia, Tennessee, but despite every effort, she was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. She was 56 years old. The loss sent shockwaves through the Christian music world. Tributes poured in from artists, fans, and friends. Bill Gaither called her the heart of David's world. Michael W. Smith, Amy Grant, and countless others shared messages of grief and love. But inside the farmhouse, Everything felt impossibly still. Lori had been the rhythm of that home. The early riser, the planner, the encourager. Her absence was felt in every sound. The creak of the porch steps, the hum of the refrigerator, the wind through the pasture trees. Each child grieved differently. Callie leaned into music, quietly playing the piano her mother loved. Maggie Beth returned to scripture, rereading verses Lori had underlined years before. Grant took on responsibilities around the farm, trying to shield the family from more pain. Kobe struggled with the suddenness of it all. One moment his mother was planning dinner, the next she was gone. Lori had been the emotional center of the family. She remembered birthdays, sensed unspoken struggles, and offered comfort without judgment. At concerts, she often stood nearby, praying with fans who shared their stories of loss and illness. She believed people mattered more than schedules. Her faith wasn't loud or performative. It was lived. That faith carried her through cancer, and it now carries her family through grief. At her memorial service in Nashville, music filled the room, but it sounded different. Songs David had sung thousands of times now carried new weight. When he spoke, his voice wasn't powerful. It was honest. He spoke of gratitude, of love, of a woman who didn't seek recognition, only impact. Afterward, the family returned to the farm. Life continued, even though nothing felt normal. The animals still needed care. The land still needed tending. Slowly, the farm became a place of healing, a space where Lori's presence could still be felt. For the first time in his life, David found singing difficult. His voice, once a source of strength, felt fragile. So he chose silence, not as escape, but as respect. He remembered something Lori once said during her cancer journey. Faith isn't believing nothing bad will happen. It's believing God is still good when it does. Those words now guide him. In private moments, David began writing letters to Lori, sharing memories, gratitude, and love. Writing became a way to speak when words couldn't be spoken aloud. The world continues to ask when David will return to the stage. For now, there are no answers. Healing cannot be rushed. Love cannot be replaced. Lori Pearl Phelps' legacy isn't found in awards or applause. It lives on in the children she raised, the husband she loved for 35 years, and the countless lives touched by her kindness and faith. Her voice may never have echoed through cathedrals, but her life sang a song that will never be forgotten.